In the digital age, South Africans are reaching new frontiers. We are now in a position to communicate with the world around us like never before. Umdu used to doodle during class. Now he's bringing his drawings to life, making cartoons online. Leanne started party platters online with just her kitchen and a laptop. Seppo and his marimba band used the net to get their South African sound to a global audience. Danny sells homemade guitars on the internet. Quinton sees mushrooming growth in the e-commerce market. And Tim is trying to help bring clean drinking water to neighboring Mozambique, even though he doesn't speak the language. He depends on the internet to communicate and translate his vision.
Small businesses who had websites were actually 3 times more likely to be profitable. It's giving South Africans a window to the world.
Could overcome those geographical constraints, the economic constraints of not living in a Silicon Valley or in China or in Israel.
It's broadband, broadband, broadband.
The more people have access to the internet, the more they are going to be able to participate in the economy.
The basic tap water of the future is going to be the internet, and there's going to have to be a really low-cost way of getting onto it.
The majority of South Africans skipped entire technological generations. They didn't experience dial-up internet or ADSL connections. For many, their first taste of the World Wide Web was on a cell phone. And with more cell phones than people in South Africa, owning a device isn't a barrier of entry to the internet. But cost is. Building broadband infrastructure is like laying down water pipes and turning on the tap. Anyone, anywhere in the world can drink from an almost infinite fountain of knowledge. And creating their own websites for free, it grows. In 2008, there were 1 trillion websites. Today, there are over 60 trillion. Every month, 6 billion hours of YouTube videos are watched around the world. South Africa's online economy contributes 2% of the country's GDP. That's 59 billion rand. By 2016, it's expected to reach 2.5%, surpassing South Africa's agricultural yield. E-commerce is also gaining momentum, with online shopping increasing by 30% every year. Yet more than 2/3 of the population is still completely offline, so the gaping digital divide remains. And the vast majority still can't access job opportunities, distance learning, or even the lighter side of the World Wide Web. Government has a plan, South Africa Connect. Adopted in December, it has an ambitious deadline: free internet for all 51 million South Africans in 6 years. The clock is ticking, and the mayor of Pretoria started running long before he heard the gun.
It can be done. We are doing it. It starts here, all in the capital city.
Church Square was one of the city's first free Wi-Fi hotspots.
It's costing us about R1 per user per month as a city.
By the end of next year, officials aim to have the whole city connected.
The city of Tshwane want to make the city the first metro in South Africa, maybe even in the continent, to have ubiquitous free Wi-Fi for all citizens. And in the next 2 years or so, they're going flat out to get that done.
Government's first priority is to link public spaces like libraries, police stations and universities, taking people out of queues and online. This makes business sense for the operators too.
Municipalities own all those buildings. So when you work closely with the municipality, you get to put your base stations up on their buildings, not pay rent, use their electricity.
The Tshwane University of Technology is home to 60,000 students. They enjoy free Wi-Fi within 5 kilometers of their campus. Their data goes a long way, 14,000 kilometers and back.
You take your phone, it connects to a base station in the distance. That base station connects underground by a fibre or microwave to a data centre somewhere in Joburg. From there it goes under the ground to Durban or to Cape Town, where it gets onto an undersea cable, goes to London and generally goes to America for the World Wide Web. All of that it does in less than a second every time. The problem is just that last mile. How do guys tap into all the infrastructure that's been laid under the sea and under the ground?
While the country's urban centres are connected, it doesn't make business sense for private operators to invest in rural areas. And government doesn't have the know-how, so they have to work together.
With the passing of South Africa Connect, we are now engaging with the private sector to look into how we can both cooperate, the public and private sectors, to find the funding necessary to roll out broadband universally.
Government does have a role to play, but probably the most important role government has is to step out of the way of private enterprise and enable private enterprise in every way possible to roll out as much access as possible.
While critics say there are more pressing issues like education and health, government believe the internet will improve efficiency in all public sectors.
But in the fact that the UN is increasingly identifying access to internet as a human right is also important in this regard. Just like you need water and bread and access to education and human rights, you will need access to the internet.
Featured on the cover of Forbes Africa before the age of 30, Rapelang Robana is the founding CEO of Yago. She found South Africans paying too much to communicate, so her company developed some of the world's first applications for making phone calls over the internet.
Most young people come out of studies or university without collateral to go and invest in a manufacturing plant. But you've got skills, you've got ideas, and better educated you are in the technology and digital space, the more likely you are to be able to pick up those opportunities and develop solutions that solve problems in the environment you're in.
But South Africa has fallen far behind the continent. The World Economic Forum ranks the country 70th in terms of global e-readiness.
Now, starting my new business, I think, Kenya is a much more attractive market to try and roll out a new product. And that's the way it shouldn't be. 7 years ago when we started our business, we had very different views of how South Africa would look like.
To keep innovators like Robana in South Africa, the country needs to quickly close the digital divide between it and the rest of the world. Getting online must become cheaper, so millions of South Africans can find critical information affecting their lives and never stop searching. Yusuf Omar, Johannesburg.
You deserve to know more. eNCA.com